Yeah, I honestly thought that the guys that went out there today, 9 changes. I think if I look back across the time that I've been at the club, I've very, very rarely done that in a group. Circumstances were such that I felt as though those changes were needed, and I thought the guys were absolutely magnificent. Yes, Galaxy had the lion's share of the ball, but at 2-0, we were all looking and thinking that maybe the inconceivable could happen with a group that, has not been out on the field together before. Disappointed, of course, not to bag the 3 points, but we come out of that game and I'm looking at 4 or 5 performances that have put themselves very firmly in my mind as we move forward and very much enforced the competition in the group and some of the choices and options that I have moving forward.
Thank you, Coach. We're going to kick it off and everyone just keep it quick.
Yeah, Coach, the intensity was much better today than I guess we've seen in the first 2 league play matches. But can you describe, or how would you describe the difficulty of balancing CONCACAF in league play? And now this is your 3rd straight drive in 2024, and you've got another battle with the second leg against Miami coming up on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a challenge that certainly here I've not had to run into before. The level of competition, the games coming thick and fast. These starting today, 4 games with just 2 days break in between, and that's a massive stress on the group. There were a number of players from Thursday's game that were unavailable or were in a position, Hanny, Tyler, Jacob, Daniel Lovitz, all had issues or came out of the game with issues. And given some of the data that I got from the game, a lot of those guys had put a tremendous effort into that Thursday night game. Walker, unavailable. Sam, obviously coming back from a period out. No Randall, still. It doesn't take an awful lot to work out that at this point, and whilst there was a lot of changes, it was needed, I think, against the Galaxy group that were always going to dominate the ball. But I think we've posed some problems to them that they've not run into yet. And in putting ourselves in a very good position, it obviously, created a very stressful close for them to get themselves back in the game. Look, at 2-0, I'd like to think that we could have closed that game out. Maybe a lack of experience of those players being on the same field together has contributed to the fact that we didn't see the game out. But as I've just said to the guys in there, 2 games in the space of 4 days, and both games we've walked in and said, you know what, they're very high calibre games and we're disappointed we haven't won them. We've been in a position to win them. I think that's a far more encouraging spot to be than when you're constantly chasing games.
Gary, obviously the disappointment is heavy, not only about the game but the previous one, you, the guys and the fans. But we noticed that the demeanor after Miami's game was that the players were kind of happy because of the effort they did and the possibilities they had. What is it tonight? I mean, is it the same demeanor for the guys? They feel like they play very well, they could win? How are they feeling?
Yeah, I think Thursday night's game, being a 2-legged affair, always leaves the players feeling as though there's still mileage in the tie. It's a different mindset. Today, and having walked in the locker room, there's a far more flat feeling. We've dropped 2 points. You can't have those back. You're not able to grab them somewhere else. They've gone. And maybe looking at the group, whether it's yourselves, even I'm looking at it saying, there could be some challenges in this today with 9 changes. And some of those challenges the guys overcame very, very well. But when you put yourself into a 2-goal lead, like I said, you you're dreaming of the 3 points. The guys are in great shape. They're looking confident on the field. And I think maybe some similarities in the two games. We go 2 goals up, and within a short window of time, they're back in the game at 2-1. It happened on Thursday, it's happened today, and instead of the opposing team feeling as though the clock's ticking and we're in a difficult spot, they're rejuvenated. The confidence is back in them again. We're on the front foot and momentum has shifted. And that's what happened again today. It happened Thursday. Crazily, very similar situation with the offside. I do believe today was a little bit more clear-cut. But it was amazing how it could have gone 3-1 and, it ends up 2-2. But, look, I'm very pleased with the way that the guys have performed. How they've attacked it. We've seen 3 guys, the 3 attacking, individuals that we've spoken about many times, Hanny, Tyler and Sam, on the field for a limited amount of time. That in itself bodes well. We've not been able to get our strongest teams out in league play for a long time, or certainly this season. So therefore, I have to feel pretty decent deep down about the way the whole roster is conducting themselves at the minute.
Gary, the Miami game, but more so even today, we saw just different shapes and different sort of midfield, back 5, then a back 4 a little bit, and kind of switching within the game and within the substitutions as well. So my question is, what are you doing in training that you are comfortable switching in these different systems? And also, how is your assessment of the players on the pitch kind of making your ideas come true, I guess?
Well, I don't know what you were seeing, but I can tell you what we were doing. We played in a 3-4-3 for the lion's share of the game. There was a plan in the back of my mind that maybe at the 30-minute mark to go, there could be some wholesale changes, but the guys were 2-0 up at that point, and I felt as though the way the game was unfolding, those guys deserved the opportunity to possibly see that game out and the victory. We changed to a back 4 when they drew level, when Jacob came on, and that was the only time we were in a back 4. The only thing that changed as we came out in the second half was, instead of playing in a 3-4-3, I asked Drew and Mackenzie just to drop into a slightly wider area and invert the 2 midfield players. So we were coming into more of a diamond midfield with Teal at the point and Mackenzie joining him if we won the ball. We were having some problems down the flanks. Pansil, who's been outstanding from the games that I've seen up until now, I thought was very, very quiet until the last maybe 15 minutes. And that's testimony to, I think, how the guys defended and the attention that Taylor gave him. Ricky Pooch is an outstanding individual, and he manages to find space where others don't. He manages to score a goal when others can't. And he's a game changer, and he's done it for them today. He dictated the game for them. He scored a goal for them to get them back in it, and everything good goes through him. So whilst I am disappointed, I'm also very proud of what the guys have produced. And maybe just to finish off the answer for you, Valère, with such a limited amount of time in between games, you can understand that there's not a huge amount going on the training field. So there's a real concerted effort via video, bringing groups of players together to discuss their roles within the group, individually, collectively as a group, back line, midfield, what the expectations are. And I've got to tell you, I think the guys are taking it on board ever so well. I think they've done a great job.
Yeah, Gary, obviously Walker missed today. I'm assuming it was related to that knock he took in Miami. I think the radio broadcast mentioned that you said you were kind of looking at next steps for how to deal with it. Are you expecting him to miss a decent amount of time? And if so, you mentioned guys who kind of stepped up today.
Brent and Josh had an excellent game. Are they guys who kind of maybe put themselves a little bit forward?
Yeah. Just in relation to Walker, it was a nasty collision that I think has left him in a very sore state. At this point in time, we're waiting to decide what that looks like in terms of recovery for Wednesday, or if indeed we're going to find ourselves in a world where it doesn't respond well to that and we have to wait a little bit longer. It'd be simple to say that I'm hoping for the first one. But, with regards to the second part of the question, I've got to say, I thought Brent was fantastic today. Admittedly, in the middle of a free, he played like a man. He defended like a man. He was aggressive. He was front foot. He looked like an individual who wanted to really make an impact on the game. And in his league debut for us, in front of a terrific crowd again, wanted to make an impression. And I'm delighted for him. I think you're right. Josh warmed into the game. He looked a little bit edgy early on, but I thought he warmed into it. And Jack, of course, has played a lot of league games for us. So we have replacements. I think the decision I've got to make, should Walker not be available, is what bodies are going to fulfil that role in the middle there, and how do we go about that, of course. But what I would say is, other than Walker now, who's a doubt at this point, is, the other guys are rounding into a little bit of health. For the most part, they've been able to recover today, and therefore a lot of that group that went out on Thursday would be part of the equation to a large degree, I suspect, on Wednesday coming.
Hi, Coach. Manfred Villalobos for NN Deportes. Looking forward on the season and watching the performance of the guys coming from the bench for the first time, most of them playing together as a group. How do you see the season for all the teams?
Oh, look, I'd love to get that first win on the sheet, on the table, points wise. But as I've said at the start, this is a very unique season for us. And if we look around at other teams that have been involved in Champions Cup as well, I think Cincinnati drew today. When I walked out Miami, we're 1 down. New England have got beat yesterday. It's very, very tough for the teams to turn around those groups physically and emotionally. They're playing in high-level games, in very tense situations, and we get very little time to turn around and to go again. So we've drawn on the full roster. Everyone has been involved. And I think one of the big positives, certainly to come out of today, and we can look back at the Mocha game at home, there have been, I would say, 4 or 5 guys that maybe to begin with were on the fringes of my thoughts, that have very much put themselves in a good position. And that can only be positive for the group, the competition within the group. I can't wait to get a normal run of schedule and get what might be classed as, certainly in those attacking areas, our most experienced players on the field. What does that look like? How exciting does that look? Can we build some continuity? But right now, it just seems with game after game, there's always a problem somewhere, whether that's Walker, whether it's Sam, whether it's Hanny. We've seen so many issues because of the sheer volume of games in the early stages of the season. So I'm in a position where I feel confident about the group. I'm pleased with what I'm seeing. I'm not going to get excited because we haven't won our first league game yet. But if we look at where we are, unbeaten at this point, some very challenging situations that we've encountered, I have to say that the whole group have gone about their business in a very professional manner.
Coach, execution aside, how do you address the mentality going around? You back-to-back games, you go let that slip. How do you kind of put the pressure on the team to put their foot on the gas and see the game all the way through?
Yeah, I don't think that was an issue at 2-1. We should have gone 3, could have gone 3-1 up. There were 2 or 3 other opportunities, albeit half chances. I don't think the guys were looking and thinking we'll see this out. In fact, the changes that were made were far more aggressive at that point. Hanny and Tyler coming into the game, Sam not long after. They're all positive moves. So I certainly wasn't looking at it thinking, you know, we might batten down the hatches here and just get away with this. I wanted to try and get a third. The encouraging part of the last 2 games is we've scored 4 goals. Should have been more than that based on Thursday night and the one that was chalked off. There's some encouraging signs without the best team on the field. The group today is a very, very different group that's conceded 2 goals than the group on Thursday. I think it's all part of the early stages of the season, warming into what will always, and is always, a very challenging campaign. And I do think, although we've played a Western Conference team today, I do think that the Eastern Conference has improved. It was tough last year, and when I look around at the groups that have improved and look far more like playoff challengers at this point, teams that were outside of the playoffs last year, I think it just makes the whole season that much more challenging. But I'm not too concerned about the goals that we've conceded, given the circumstances we're in. I'm more looking at the positives of the group, of the squad, of the performance and the attitude, and I think we're in a good place.
Nick, with the final question.
Gary, minus the circumstances of the game, you had Sam Surridge, Mukhtar, Tyler Boyd, all 3 together on the pitch there. Kind of going back to the MOP again, where they were kind of connecting, spoke on continuity earlier. Can we possibly see some continuity going on later on this week, and what could that look for your side?
Yeah, well, you can see they're all in that world of contention. Sam's situation is slightly different. We need to see how he reacts to the work today. It's the first time that he's had any minutes since his injury, so there's always a little bit of concern that there could have been an incident out there that creates a little bit more, soreness. But he looked fine when he came off. 15 minutes is not a huge amount of football, so we'll probably be looking to try and edge that up at some point. Maybe Wednesday could be the time to do that. Whether that's off the bench or from the start is difficult to tell at this point. I'm just looking forward, as I've said a couple of times, to seeing that trio of players get a more consistent run. It doesn't mean to say that I'm not happy with what I'm getting out of Teal. He's got 2 goals in 2 games, albeit from the penalty spot. You still got to hold your nerve. I would imagine there's plenty of us in here that wouldn't have wanted to take it, me included, by the way. But he's held his nerve. He scored again, and I think for forwards that's always a big boost. And he gives so much energy and competitiveness to the team. Different to 1 or 2 of the other guys, and I think that's what a squad's all about. So I'm certainly not dismissing what I've seen. Mackenzie was really exciting in spells today. But we know what we've seen out of Hanny, Sam and Tyler. Jacob has been magnificent, certainly on Thursday night, man of the match, as we said. A consistent run for those attacking players would certainly go a long way to starting to see what we're about, the balance of the group, and maybe what 1 or 2 of the other areas slot in like. Because I thought Drew, second half, had probably his best 45 minutes for the club, which again is a real boost. Brian Anunga was outstanding in midfield, energy and competitiveness in there non-stop. So that bodes well, as I've said, and I don't think we're going to see the true balance and reflection of the team until we get into something that looks fairly normal in terms of a schedule, and 1 or 2 players back to full health as well. So I don't think that'll be long, But at this point, I can't tell you when.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought everybody gave a great effort today. A lot of guys like myself who don't get to play week in and week out, so I thought everybody played really well. Whole team effort, and yeah, not much to say on the penalty. I knew what I needed to do, and thankfully I was able to make contact with my foot and kept it out. So.
Thank you, Elliot. We're gonna open the floor for questions. We'll kick it over with Valer.
Elliot, obviously you practice penalties during training, but I'm curious if you do any extra sort of homework on the players you're facing. Did you know you were starting today, and did you look up where Ricky Boyd might put the ball?
Yeah, I knew I was starting today, and we practice penalties in training, and we have our own way of going about penalties as a goalkeeper group, both Joe, Matt, and myself, looking at players and their tendencies, and you try and gather information from that. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just feel it in the moment what you need to do. So there's a combination of all those things.
Ben, right?
Yeah, Elliot, kind of late in the game as LA kind of just started throwing more at you guys to chase the lead. I mean, you were seeing a lot more action. I'm just curious kind of what you saw from them and how they were kind of able to grow into the game, and for the most part, how you guys were able to keep it quiet for 65 minutes or so. Yeah. Well, towards the end of the game, they were throwing bodies forward, and we were doing our best to force them wide. And defend crosses, we felt like we, having three center backs in the game could do that really well. And there were a few moments where they were able to penetrate us directly through the middle, and that's where they hurt us the most. So they tried to pin us back, and they did a good job of that throughout the game. But for the most part, we were able to deny them a lot of chances.
Okay.
Elliot, stopping penalties is not like casualty. It's like you have to practice, like the partner said. Is that a talent of you? Is just practice? And also, is this a clear message that you're claiming to change your role on the team, or you're comfortable with the role that you're living right now?
I would just say that it's something that I practiced a lot, and so, I've gotten good at. And yeah, my role in the team is to be the best player that I can be. And so I try and show that week in and week out at training. And at the end of the day, Gary picks the team, and that's his decision. I only control what I do out on the field. And so, yeah, I'm grateful to play today and help the team in any way that I can.
Jacob.
Elliot, this was, I think, your sixth game in 16 or 17 days open season. I guess I'm curious, how different has training, day-to-day practice, how different has practice been this on a day-to-day level with so many games?
Yeah, practice has been a lot of the same. You prepare, you play the game, and then you recover. And normally in a normal week, you'd have other days in there to work on tactics, things like that. But right now it's just game, recover, prepare, game. And so focusing on keeping everybody healthy, taking what little bits you can, learning from the game, and putting it into the next one.
Claudia.
Elliot, on that second goal from LA, when they tied it, you make the great save and you actually let the ball go like good keepers do to the side. Like what happens afterwards? I mean, was that an error, a mistake on the team on the way they were standing, the shape of the team? What was it? It was just a virtue from LA to score.
Yeah, I haven't seen it back, but just in the moment, I made the save and got up and tried to get to the near post to deny any shot there, and he decided to cut the ball back, and so I don't think anybody was marking the guy who scored. I don't even know who it was or what happened. I just saw the ball go past my defender, so I was blocked from the initial shot. And and I'll have to go back and look, but, when we're in the box, we need to mark up. And so I can't speak to exactly what happened, but that's just my perspective of what I saw.
Any final questions? Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Elliot.